I haven't made a video in quite a long time for my own personal reasons that basically boil down to Magic the Gathering sucks. And yet I still play it, but that's beside the point. This video I wanted to talk about the band list that came out today and my take on it, which I think is no one's really going to be talking about the larger implications surrounding Once Upon a Time. So I wanted to get into that today and voice my opinion about that. I'm going to try and leave my feelings out of it because I don't like it, but I'm going to explain why. First thing, real quick, is I find it so cheap that if you notice, for MTG Arena, the effective ban date is right now, which I've logged in and I've already checked. The last ban announcement, which was for Field of the Dead, it didn't go into effect until the next update, which was in like 3 days from then, 3 or 4 days from then, so you could still play with it for a while. It's not that they didn't want people to not be able to play with their banned cards for a few days anymore. That's not the motivation behind this effective date. The motivation behind this effective date was we didn't like what we saw last update, which was the people who were paying attention and didn't have Field of the Dead, who saw it was getting banned, but that they'd get wild cards back for them. They decided, screw it, I'll just go ahead and craft my Field of the Dead, so I'll have them for, the off chance that I'll want to use them in a different format slash historic, or even Brawl for that matter. Arena said, no, 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 we can't have that again. We can't have people, in case, we actually decide to actually support Brawl, and in case we decide to actually support other formats so that it's not, historic play not going to weekly wins or, um, Brawl play actually having its own matchup queue outside of Wednesday. They decided we can't have that. We're going to immediately axe them because we can't have people having full play sets of this in um, historic because we want people to burn as many wild cards as they possibly can, regardless of how cheap it makes us look. So that's my 2 cents there. Because get real, guys, you're not actually supporting historic. Historic is not a format people are clamoring for, nor I would imagine is it a very fun format to play. So that's why they made it effective instead of like 3 days out, because they didn't want people to be crafting their cards just so they could have them free in historic, especially Once Upon a Time. They said, no, 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 no. You want to play with that, you're going to have to pay the wild cards for this format we quote technically support unquote. So anyway, now that I'm 3.5 minutes into this damn video, um, let's talk about the ban list. There are two very different bannings here. There's Oko, and then there's Once Upon a Time. We're going to talk about Oko first. Oko was the obvious choice. Oko is a example of a mistake in a vacuum. Oko says, hey, we're idiots. We shouldn't have printed this plus ability on a removal. Oko would have been a fine card if it was +1 create a food token, +1 create a food token, -1. I'm sorry, +1 create a food token, -2 removal. It would have been a fine card then. Or if you even wanted to do it, +2 create a food, -2 do the removal, so that you could -5 turn 2 if you wanted to and still have an Oko. That would have been fine. It still would have been a little imbalanced, but it would have been fine. It wouldn't have been the problem card that it is. I've never seen Planeswalkers hit double digits. It's ridiculous. And Oko does it all the time because he can. But anyways, Oko is the example here of a mistake in a vacuum, where it was this guy was clearly overpowered. We're not apologies for the format the last, what, month or so since Field got banned, I guess. 4 weeks. We're removing him. He's not going to be a problem anymore. Enjoy the Field without him. We're not here to discuss what will be taking over the meta because, who knows how it's going to shape up. For one, Green's nerfed to shit. All decks that ran Once Upon a Time are automatically tier 2 now. But like I said, I'm leaving my personal feelings aside on this, and we're talking about these implications. So Oko and Easy, this guy should have never been printed. Sorry he was here. Everyone's expecting him to be banned. Goodbye, Oko. Um, there was no way he wasn't going to get the boot. And yes, this is going to hit, number one, from a financial side, this is going to hit consumer confidence pretty hard. Because they banned Oko, and he was the flagship of the set. Meaning, he was the card in the set that was the money card. And now a good chunk of the value, I mean the value is going to get redistributed around. You even see it some with the Royal Scions, at least with the borderless art from ye old collector edition packs starting to rise. You'll probably see Garuk go up some. It'll semi-balance itself out. Questing Beast will probably go up some more. But anyways, maybe Brazen Borrower. Anyway, that hurts consumer confidence there. But Once Upon a Time also really hurts consumer confidence. I'm really mad that I didn't make a video on this beforehand because I actually predicted it, and it's the reason why I didn't go and use my wildcards just yet. I actually predicted that they might ban Once Upon a Time, that there was a chance because of how much it was representing green, that it was giving green such an edge. Now, talking about the consumer confidence side, that really hurts because your collector's packs just kind of took a hit right here because extended art and extended art foil Once Upon a Times are money, but not anymore. If you can't use them in standard, they ain't gonna be worth jack, really. Value's gonna get cut in half at least. Okay. And for regular boxes too, because now you can't pull Oko of any value, nor can you pull Once Upon a Time of any value. That's like the step below Oko of something you can kind of anticipate reasonably getting as some kind of a value in the box, and that's just not going to happen. And if I remember to talk about it, in other words, if I'm cutting off the video and had remembered to talk about it, I'm going to talk a little bit about tinfoil hat theory I have about how they're printing cards and whatnot. But right now we're going to go ahead. So we're transitioning from the the financial aspect to the larger implications of the game. Here's why Once Upon a Time being banned is not good for the game. Once Upon a Time being banned. Let me start you out with a little story, okay? I played Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, for many years, and there was a format in around, I think I want to say 2012, somewhere around there, where a new card had just gotten released. It was called Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality does exactly what Once Upon a Time does. Once Upon a Time and Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality says reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add one of them to your hand, and then there are some restrictions. Like you can't special summon for the rest of the turn, I believe. And that might have been it. Who knows? Maybe you can only activate one duality. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while. Can you tell? But it's reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Put one in your hand. Once Upon a Time does the same thing. They're both consistency engines. And, in that it allows you to fish out what you need from your deck more consistently than just drawing it and hoping you get it. And when Pot of Duality first came out, there was a deck called Gravekeepers that were able to maximize the utility of Pot of Duality more than any other deck. So Gravekeepers were the green of Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time. Because green's going to be able to utilize this Once Upon a Time more than any other color. Green gets the most boost from this, obviously, because it's green. Or maybe it's not green gets the most boost, it's that the rest of the colors don't get the boost that green then gets. So green gets a major boost from Once Upon a Time. And Gravekeepers were able to use Pot of Duality more than other decks because Gravekeepers didn't special summon. And special summoning is a big part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now more than ever. But at that time in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Era was, special summoning was on the way up, and you've been seeing more and more and more of it with each set. So special summoning was a big part of the game. Gravekeepers didn't utilize special summoning at all. And Gravekeepers allowed you to, with the use of Pot of Duality, dig into the cards you needed more reliably. And there was a very easy combo to pull off, which was just if you had a certain card out on the field, and you played this, you had to have this certain card on the field, which you just had to play or draw into. And then when you had that out, you could play this card that allowed you to look at your opponent's hand and have them discard all creature cards from it, all monster cards. And that was really busted at the time because it was just huge advantage generation. Monster cards are a big part of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the deck was allowed to run rampant. And Once Upon a Time is doing the same thing for green. Okay. Now, what's the point of this story? Why did I, lead? Why did I lead this with Once Upon a Time being banned? It's bad for the game, and here's an equal story telling you, how it's allowing one deck in another game to use the same kind of consistency generator that's in Yu-Gi-Oh! To be dominant in a meta in a certain era of their game. Well, Once Upon a Time being banned is bad because what Once Upon a Time does for the game is it opens an interesting new mechanic of the free casting. If you play it, if it's your first spell, play the game, go fetch something that helps the consistency of your deck. Now, Once Upon a Time itself is a unique card because it opens the door for the rest of the colors. They start in Throne of Eldraine with Once Upon a Time is, for green. It's grab a land or a creature. They could come out with something in the next set that's blue. Grab a instant or sorcery. Come out with something in the next set that's red. Grab an instant or creature for mono red. And then the set after that for black. Grab a, I don't know, planeswalker creature. Something along the same lines that incrementally gives consistency to the rest of the colors. That would be an interesting mechanic to introduce to the game of Magic the Gathering that's never happened before. But the fact that Once Upon a Time is now banned, it's telling us that Wizards never had that plan in mind. They would have just left Once Upon a Time the way it was if they had more plans for the free instant casting spells like Once Upon a Time to be printed in the future. They would have just let it be. They'd be like, and that would have been involved in the R&D process of planning. It's like, all right, we've got this new idea for this new mechanic of free casting early game for specific colors that could also have overlap in dual color and tricolor decks and whatnot. And so we want to try out this new mechanic. Well, the fact that they're banning it shows that they weren't planning that. Because if they were planning that, they would have just let it gone. Because they would have said, okay, we're trying this new mechanic. Clearly, green's going to have a huge consistency boost during the throne block. We're just going to let it be as we continue incrementally releasing these consistency helping cards for the various 5 colors across these sets. And they'll be legal. We're introducing them in Throne, so even at rotation, by the time rotation is about to happen and Core 2021 comes out, all of the colors will have their consistency aiding search cards. There's a little bit of a risk there in that one might be significantly more broken than the other, but I think it would be an interesting thing to toy with. But like I said, because they're banning it, that means they don't have plans for cards like this coming out. Which the flip side of that coin is, and this is the more disturbing part, they didn't think when they designed this card that it was going to be a problem. They didn't think that a deck that ran this specific color was going to be in a position to be more consistent than the rest of the decks in the playing field, than the non-green decks. They didn't think that that would be an issue. And the fact that that made it past R&D, the fact that it made it past development on their side is really a problem because, Oko, I don't know how to. That's a different argument as far as how the hell did this get past R&D. This you can just make the argument of, oh, they just really wanted to sell the set, the tinfoil hat theory of they're just making the power level of each set completely ridiculous. And I guess I'll kind of talk about the tinfoil hat theory that I have here, which is how they might just be printing the most overpowered stuff and then letting the meta, shape up, and if they have to, they just wind up banning things from the new sets, which could very well be just how they decide that they're going to make their money. Because think about the timing of banning Once Upon a Time. By banning Once Upon a Time in Oko, you've taken 50% of the value out of Throne of Eldraine packs. Maybe that's being a little generous. Maybe it's less than that, but you've taken a good chunk of the value out of the packs, and that hurts consumer confidence. But think about it, Wizards has already sold their collector's edition. Their collector's edition blisters have already been distributed amongst the distributors in the country. They're already sitting on shelves in stores. What do they care? And it's the same thing with Oko. They get that powerful card out there that gets those boxes sold, and if the meta just turns out to be unhealthy and people are leaving the game because of it, then fix it. And that could be what they're doing in the future, which is, it's already. No, I guess the point of this little tangent is that it's already bad that you have a card that's showing that Wizards doesn't know what they're doing on one level, which is, it's either they're clueless or it's intentional, the intentional part being they want to sell the boxes. But then there's another layer of that with the banning of the Once Upon a Time, because it shows them that they're more interested in printing, more so than the previous evidence, that they're more interested, more so than the previous evidence has shown, that they're more interested in printing the overpowered stuff, seeing if it's becoming a problem, and then if it is, banning it. Because banning Once Upon a Time shows that Wizards doesn't really have balance in mind. Because if they had balance in mind, they would have thought, obviously, okay, this gives green a huge advantage. How are we going to deal with that imbalance? And the other side of R&D is just like, well, we're not. We're not going to deal with it. Because how you deal with that kind of a card design is like I suggested before, where you come out each set with another one for the next color. Red for, what did I say, creature and instant, blue for sorcery and instant, things like that. Something that's, or maybe not that. Maybe just like blue would be instant and land, and red would be creature and I don't know, something along those lines, where you release things that fall in line with a rebalancing of the other side of this kind of a card. And the fact that that was left out of the design process means that there's more evidence, more than before, that they just don't have balance in mind at all. Because the fact that you designed this card and that there wasn't a counter balance, if you'll forgive the pun, that there wasn't a counterbalance to the card design for this specific color really speaks volumes to the fact that they don't care. That balance isn't on their plate. And because if it was, we would be, we would be seeing more cards like this in the future. And the fact that they're banning it means that they're not coming. They didn't have that in mind. And because if they did, like I said, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, but if they did, they would that would have been included in the design process of okay, we're introducing this new mechanic, and green's just going to have a boost for a set, and then the next set comes out and it's going to be green and blue that have the boost, and then the next set it's going to be green, blue, black that have a boost until you get out, all 5 colors of it. And that's clearly not part of it. That's clearly not part of their design plan, and that's why Once Upon a Time being banned is bad, because the fact that they don't have a mechanism in place to allow the meta to self-correct, because yeah, green being overrepresented is a problem, but you do have, is it still running around? Um, Timur Reclamation that doesn't run Once Upon a Time. You have Azorius Control still running around there, and Rakdos Sacrifice. You had other decks that were running around that weren't green. Green was highly dominant, but that was more because of Oko, not because of Once Upon a Time. And what people could run alongside green builds that dealt with Oko. So if had you banned Oko and Once Upon a Time still been on the field, yeah, you're gonna have decks that are still very strong that have green in them, but there are the push to be such a green dominant meta with Oko being gone would have remedied that a little bit. When theoretically, you'd see what happens when you release the next color's version of Once Upon a Time. But like I said, the fact that it's banned, they don't have plans for that. It's just, well, Once Upon a Time's too powerful. Let's get rid of that. So that's why Once Upon a Time being banned is not a good indicator for the health of the game, because it just means cards like Once Upon a Time and Oko are going to keep getting printed, and it's I'm worried for how that's going to let the game shape up with each set that releases over let's say just the next year. It's not going to be good, and I guess that's all I got for that. I'll cut it off here. Hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe if you like for the next video that I'll put out in however many weeks or months. So drop a comment if you enjoyed the conversation. Let me know what you think. If you think Once Upon a Time Being Banned is good, or if you agree with my more involved kind of analysis of, hey, Once Upon a Time being banned is bad because it means there weren't any other colors coming out that were Once Upon a Time copies, but just for those colors, which means they designed Once Upon a Time and thought, it'll be fine. Green getting a huge consistency boost for free is fine. We're fine.